Hi, this is John Solari, and we're really lucky today on the Method Actor Speaks. We have David Beakel, and we have a photo that you're looking right now of his sister, who I will let David introduce you to her, to say her name and everything. What is?
This is my bird sister. Her name's Kristi Mahe, Kristi Mahe, and she's an incredible actress and model from Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, that is great. Now, they can find her on the I.
Yes.
Okay, we can look her up and then get to see about her.
And she's deaf mute too. She's unable to, so she sign language.
Right, well, that's what we need.
Thank you.
Well, David, I'm really happy
Thank you,
to have you on the show. I mean, Sharon DeBoer told me you're a gift, and I'm really happy. And well, first of all, I want the public to know that your father was my first agent here in California, Walter Beakel, who was a member of the Actors Studio as a director in New York. I didn't know that until years later after, well, passed away, but it was Sharon DeBoer and your father. And I want to speak a little bit about you first, and then we'll get into your father. I want to know what you do, David. Did you follow in your father's footsteps?
Not quite. He always asked me when I was young if I wanted to get into acting and stuff, and I was never interested in it then. Now, I am interested in acting. I'm doing an improv at the LA Connection, but my main thing in life is a writer, and I have an incredible book about a couple of homeless gals, drug addicts that I met in New Mexico before I moved back out here. And they're beautiful gals, bright gals, they're 24 and 28, but they're homeless and disenfranchised and been abused and been through horrible stuff. And I met them at a 7-Eleven in Albuquerque and welcomed them into my life. And for the next 6 weeks, I had the most amazing adventures with them. And it was scary and it was hair-raising, but they proved to be, a lot of the time, much better friends to me than my more middle-class friends in Santa Fe were.
Why do you think that was?
Because they've been through so much suffering in life, I think, and they know what it is to be at the bottom, and that they never want to put anybody else through that. And so it's almost like people that have been through the worst are the most compassionate. And I know I blabbered a lot about my bird sister, like in public places, and all I was trying to say is what an incredible person she is and how much potential she has, and people didn't quite get the message. Like, I guess some producers overheard me talking about her and said, oh, she has personal problems, and they didn't want to hire her. And that was not the message I was trying to convey at all. I was trying to say that this gal has been through so much in life that, I mean, she can portray anything in acting. I mean, her acting is amazing. Like,
really? You're not being a little partial there, are you?
No.
Okay.
The first time I saw her acting clip, I fell out of my chair. I mean.
So there you got your father's eye as an agent.
Sure.
You get to notice talent.
Sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. You picked that up from your father. And so this script that you're working on, how far has it come along? Do you have it in just a treatment, or do you have the whole thing done?
I have it completed as a book. I don't have, I'm holding out to get the best agent and publisher, like preferably in New York City. Like, I want to get a top agency and publishing company. And what my dad, whatever means that my dad left me are to pursue my goals and dreams, which could be like a book tour or whatever is necessary to promote this book.
Have you submitted it to some agents, to literary agents, to help you?
A little bit, yes.
Because that would be a big thing, and I'm sure it sounds really like an interesting story.
Everybody that's heard any of this story is like, oh my god, this is the most entertaining read, and it's like, it's well written, it's got an engaging style, it's very distinct voice.
Can you give us a little hint of, like, an article of something, what it's about?
Sure.
That would pique the audience?
I guess, I'm honing my urban driving skills. Sandra instructed, wait, I think I recognize this up here. Go right, but pointed to the left, so I go left. Sorry, I have this backwards way of learning so that I always have my directions mixed up. Sandra says, sorry, I have this backwards way of learning so that I always have my directions mixed up. That's not backwards, I affirmed. I actually think that's more forward than the way everyone else thinks. That means you're unique. You have an original way of learning, and that's definitely a good thing. Yeah, I guess. Wait, follow that black beamer with the rims up ahead. I think that's Cruz. Is that him, sister? Wait, I can't see with the lights. And so this is the night that we met. So suddenly my whitish recreational vehicle is speeding up and tailing this customized dealer's car with the gleaming rims and tinted windows, southbound somewhere between Central and Gibson, way up on the east side. This is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, just before I moved back here, and I just met these gals at a 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
And I pull up alongside as instructed so the girls can see, and sure enough, Sandra fervently waving and Michelle yelling out her back window, "Hey bro, it's me, Michelle!" That must be Cruz. Dave, can we get $20 from you now? Thanks, dear. You know we'll pay you back. So we follow this guy up to where he parks outside a house, Sandra now directing me. No, watch, pull up right next to him. So I pull up to almost right next to him. Good job, Michelle says, and the girls hop out and have their exchange with him. They return, but just before we depart, the stately and fatherly Spanish gent appears and shakes my hand and addresses me at my window. Yes, it's nice to meet you too. You take care of my little girls. Then for the next 30 minutes and goes on from there. So.
Oh, great. Congratulations.
But I just, that was a random paragraph on like page
Yeah, that's all
like
that counts.
4 or 5. So.
Really interesting. Now, do you keep in touch with the girls that you met?
I lost contact with them that March.
That March.
The last time I saw Sandra, I managed to find her outside the Children, Youth, and Families Department.
Right.
And I got to meet her daughter, and she had her little daughter with her and stuff, but the state had taken her daughter away because they said she was a drug addict.
Yeah.
And last I heard, she was going to try and get off the drugs and get into a like an apartment complex or something like that. But then a year later, when I moved to Los Angeles, I got a call from this really intense Hells Angels guy in New Mexico, Cowboy, and he said, like, Sandra's doing really bad. She had an apartment for a while, but she's back doing meth and heroin, and there's like, or crack and heroin, and there's some guy that's treating her really bad, and I'm gonna mess him up, and all this crazy stuff. And I was like, wow. But I have a feeling that right now that they're both okay. I hope, I pray.
Well, let's pray for that. But, okay, now you got into writing and this. Now let's talk a little bit about what you remember about your father. I remember because Sharon was telling me that your father discovered Harrison Ford.
Yep. Nobody in Los Angeles could stand him. Everybody thought he was arrogant, standoffish, angry. The heads of the studios, they all said, "You ain't got it, kid." One time he was supposed to play a bellhop, and the head of the studio said, "Yo, when Jackie Cooper played a bellhop, like he walked into the room and you knew he was a star." And then Harrison Ford said to the head of Columbia, he said, "Well, I thought he was supposed to think I was a bellhop or something." And so that's one story.
Great response. Now, did you ever get to meet Harrison Ford, or?
Yeah, on the telephone and stuff like that. And
yeah.
So.
Wonderful actor, yes. I didn't know that about your father. I mean, your father had an eye. One of the gifts that he said to me, while he told Sharon DeBoer about me, that he hadn't seen an actor like me in 30 years when I came. And unfortunately, I came out here too late, just about the time your father was getting ready to retire. But it was Sharon Bohr who got me into Actors Studio by doing a play there they called The October Night at Tommy Zero. Mike Gazzo, who wrote The Rainmaker, he's the one that wrote it. Originally, it was called The October Morning of Tommy Zero. I don't know if you watch The Sopranos, but Paulie Walnuts, Tony Sirico played the part Tommy Zero in New York many years ago, which I did out here in LA. So anyway, but that was it. Can you tell us some stories about your father as an agent and what you remember about the people coming over, what it was like growing up being the son of this? Well, your father was known as one of the best agents in California.
He was just always the most honest guy. Like, he hated phony baloney, and he'd be like, bullshit, bullshit, and he'd point his finger and he'd snap his fingers, and he had the loudest finger snap I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And he was just like the sweetest guy. He was such a sweetheart. He was always very gentle and kind. But sometimes when I'd piss him off, he'd like scream and curse and, "You cocksock motherfuck, syphilitic dripping from an all-night Chinese gang fuck!" and just at the top of his lungs. And it was just... And I always knew he loved me. Like, even when he was furious at me, like, I always felt like my dad was my best friend. So.
Well, that's a nice feeling. Yeah. Who were some of the people that used to come around? When you were, well, you don't remember your father from New York. You were too.
I hadn't been born yet.
Nope.
Wow.
Well, he was in New York, but in L.A., you must have had a lot of people come in. Some memories that you like to tell the audience about.
Sure, like Ralph Waite used to live at our place in Sherman Oaks, and he sort of camped on the living room sofa. He was sort of like a drifter for a while there, and we called him Uncle Ralph. And George Siegel was always getting coaching help from my dad, and so my dad was always helping him. Like, I guess one time they wanted him to play a tough guy in a New York movie, and he didn't know how to do that. And he was like, "So what do I do? Do I just act tough first?" "Walter, I don't know how to do this." And my dad said, "No, don't act tough, but when the tough guys make a joke, laugh like it's the funniest thing you've ever heard. And so when people see you laughing with the tough guys, they're going to think you're tough too." And so he was always like giving coaching advice like that. And he always just had these amazing ways to, go around the box or find a different way to approach each situation. It's like...
Right. Well, he was a director in the New York, active studio, so I could see that what you're talking, that he was directing them, giving them, which is great advice. You never play tough.
Wow.
It's like you don't play drunk.
No.
But George Siegel, good actor, still working, still doing things. Yes. And any other people that you remember that he used to help a lot? And unfortunately, I apologize for cutting in, but Ralph Waite, the Actors Studio, will be having a memorial for him in, I think, 2 weeks from this Friday.
Oh, I'd love to be there.
I'll email you. They're going to have a memorial for Ralph Waite. A wonderful actor, a wonderful person, too. So, I mean, what is some of the, why'd you call him Uncle?
He always had like this like uplift, spirit, like comedy. He was always very upbeat and funny, and just always had a good energy that, he was always like the kind of guy you'd want staying on your couch.
Yeah.
I
do remember, I met Ralph in 1978 in New York, and he was right after that he was doing a movie called On the Nickel.
Wow.
Where he sold all his residual rights to the Waltons to make the movie. I think he got about $2 million back then, which was a lot of money.
That's good.
Yeah, he made a movie called On the Nickel. It was about downtown, the Bowery, which you would call the Bowery out here.
Sure.
Where all the alcoholics were. And it was really interesting. So, but Ralph Waite, I'm glad you got to, so your father represented him too?
Yeah.
He represented a lot of talent. Your father was, from what I understand, he was known as the co-star talent. If you wanted good actors, you went to Beakel Jennings.
He always cared about the actors. Like a lot of the agents were out to like make money and stuff like that, and all the actors that knew a lot of people said that like my dad, it was his drinking. He should have become a director, and I mean it's up for debate. But I know Mitch Ryan says that as an agent he was a great agent. I mean he was like he was one of the only agents that truly cared about actors and stuff. And my dad always said it's about the actors first. That those are the people that matter, and they're the ones putting their ass out on the line. And
That's nice to hear, and I believe it because being a member of the Actors Studio, I mean, your father, and being a director, he understood what acting was all about and knew the work that an actor puts in. And it's really, and Mitch Ryan, what a wonderful actor. Mitch Ryan, I saw him and Salome Jens do a lot of work. together?
He met with myself and my bird sister down in Hollywood about 2 months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he had us, we all went to Musso Frank's Grill, and
Wow.
he was like, yes, it's the oldest restaurant in Hollywood. I was like, cool, okay. And so we went there, and she was knocked out. She was amazed, and he loved her too. He was like, who is this darling gal you've brought here? So,
Yeah, Mitch Ryan, wonderful actor. I know him from Actors Studio. So your father represented a lot of people from the studio. Who were the other people that you remember?
and then there was Gene Simmons from Kiss was.
Yes.
My dad did his acting career, and then Shirley MacLaine's daughter, and then we'd go out to her place, and then I know they had like one of Ronald Reagan's daughters was there, so they'd have the Secret Service in and out. And one of the stories when my dad was at the Actors Studio in New York, Lee Strasberg said that the way my dad showed them to do Hamlet without people being like, to be or not to be. My dad was like, bullshit, like give us something in real life. He said, to be or not to be, or so it's like real and believable. Right. And Lee Strasberg said my dad taught them how to do Hamlet at the Actors Studio in New York.
Oh, that's a great compliment. And I think it's from that, which if you notice a lot of Hamlets now are done modern day, not with the language. They use the language your father said use. I mean, when you think about Walter Beakel, what a gift he really was to the acting world and to humanity, really.
He wanted theater to be like people, so that people are seeing real life, not so they're watching a bunch of actors, pump themselves up on a stage. He wanted it to be real,
right?
And that's the way he was with everybody. Like that's why he hated phony baloney so much. He was so into honesty and wanted, and he was furious at his partner at the agency because he was always like, ripping off the company and stuff. And but like another story, I know Harvey Korman and my dad were both in love with Shirley Suma Brazda back at Chicago, and Shirley ended up going with my dad, and Harvey said, why did you go with Walter? What about me? And then Shirley said, well, Walter told me that he loved me, and you never told me that. Or something. So I know it's another one of his stories.
But the realness in the theater, that's a gift, and we're losing a lot of that. I mean, that's what Actors Studio is all about. I mean, when you act, if you're not real, who's going to believe it? A lot of the best performances I gave, I don't remember what I did because I just did it. I remember for your father, I did the Boom Boom Room. In the Boom Boom Room, I played Big Al. And we did it in the office over there on Beverly Hills, over there on Cannon Place.
Wow.
They had upstairs.
Yeah.
And I remember Sharon DeBoer, and they were all sitting. And what was it, Jim Jennings? Was that his name, Jim?
Oh, Tom?
Tom Jennings. Tom Jennings and
Jim,
Walter.
Yeah, Jim.
No. Yeah. And but that's how I got in. It was, oh God, what's his name, the director? He was I call him my rabbi out here.
Fred Roos?
No. He did all the Cagney and Lacey's, and I can't believe I can. You go on. The name will come to me in a minute. Jim Frawley. I don't know if you ever met James Frawley. Your father represented him. He was the director. He did most of the Cagney and Lacey's and things like that. He was an actor with Actors Studio too.
Sure.
And he said he left acting and became a director because it'll come to me. So that was really great. I'm just amazed at some of the clients that your father represented.
I'd love to be back in contact with some of these people.
Well, I hope when they see this, they will get in contact with you.
Sure.
Who are some of the people that you would love to meet?
For instance, Gene Simmons, just everybody. I'll come up with a list.
Good, that's a great idea, because I remember the day I met Gene Simmons with your father. He introduced me to Gene Simmons because I was a new client then. And I think it was just about the same time that he was taking on Gene Simmons in the acting career. And him introduced me. I'm not into that kind of music, so I'm into Sinatra. So.
Sure, that's awesome. It's like, wow. He used to be a math professor, I guess. Gene Simmons, he was like a mathematics teacher, and then he got into music or something.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, a great businessman too.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
So did you get to ever talk with him and meet him?
My dad took me to a Kiss concert, and I went up to Paul Stanley after backstage, and I was like, Gene Simmons, nice to meet you. And he said, I'm not Gene Simmons, I'm Paul Stanley, you idiot. And I was like, I'm sorry, oops, like, sorry.
Well, that's his real name.
Or no, that was another member of Kiss. I went up to the wrong guy and.
Oh, the wrong guy. Well, they all wear makeup.
Yeah, so I didn't know.
So how long have you been living back here in LA?
I made it back 3 years ago in a U-Haul truck and just moved all our stuff back out here. And I remember my dad was really worried. He was like, well, he wasn't worried. He knew I'd do fine and stuff, but he was like, when is my question. When are you going to get it together? And, you know, but he didn't really say that, but I felt that way with him. And I was like, tomorrow, Walter, I promise you, I'm going to get it together tomorrow. I'm going to get my books, you know, a good publisher and agent and stuff like that. And, but yeah, I didn't move back out here until 2011 in a U-Haul, and then I had so many adventures for my first year. I was just living in my car, and I met all these amazing people, like these girls in Palm Springs, and we hung out with their cholo boyfriends in South Central LA and went on these like terrifying adventures where I thought we were all going to get shot or I was going to get involved in some violent crime or something. And then I met all these people in Santa Cruz and had all these adventures with them and made like amazing friends and had, so that's another book I have is Back to Kelly Chronicles from my first year back here and stuff.
It's called the Kelly Chronicles?
Back to Kelly Chronicles.
Oh.
So.
And what's that about?
It just like it'd be like a memoir of all my adventures since I got back here and stuff, and just living in my car and all the fun times and people I met and stuff. But my dad would be so proud of the fact that I just sold the condo in New Mexico, schlepped everything back out here, and that I'm doing this. He would be so happy right now. And if he saw my girlfriend, my sister, whatever, like he'd be very proud.
Really? So, good. Yeah. I know Sharon is very proud of you. She speaks very highly of you. So, yeah.
But like, especially if my dad knew the book I got about the baby girls, the two homeless gals in New Mexico, because so the thing about my dad is he always had so much compassion for people. Like he never, like everybody loved him. Like, I mean the maids that were working at the Rosemont and stuff like that, and the guys that were like sweeping up outside. Like, I mean they were like, bro, you piss me off. Your dad is fucking funny, bro. Like, he is hilarious. Everybody loved my dad. I mean, it was like but no, they didn't say that to me, but I had those because of my own social problems when I was back in New Mexico and stuff that I'm overcome now. And everybody here now is like, Dave, we love you. You're like such a cool guy. And I have never felt so accepted and so thankful to so many people as since I've been back in LA. I did not have good experience in Colorado at all. I did not like it there at all. New Mexico was cool. I like the people in New Mexico, but it was very difficult. Like I did not, you know, but it was definitely better in New Mexico than it was in Colorado, in my opinion. But in neither place was I like, I mean, I was always like, felt like I was very much like the freaking plague or something. Like I was very much a bane and a nuisance and very much an annoyance to the people around me. And since I came back here, it's been like the exact opposite. I felt like people have been super welcoming to me, very receptive towards me, have been like, I mean, the applause I've been getting from like a guy last night, from 5 months ago, I wrote a one-page poem to him, Casper, and he like posted, as the first thing I saw on my Facebook newsfeed was Casper saying, Dave wrote me this incredible poem or this amazing poem, and his words are awesome, if any of you care to read. And then he quotes my entire poem I wrote to him. Really? And like several people told me that the poems I wrote to them changed their lives. They said, Dave, nobody has ever written me something so kind. This is like the nicest thing anybody has ever said to me. And And so I have a book of all the, that's my third or fourth book that I'm working on is my book of these one-page poems I wrote for people, but I could read the one for my father, I guess.
I would love to hear that.
Sure. Dad, Walter, soft-spoken, yet a warrior for honesty, with a snap of the fingers that could wake the dead, and frequently did, this is my father. Truer family than the one from biology who never chose me but merely made a mistake. This gentle bear of a man, this bohemian king with his insight and palette, this ancient towering sequoia of middle age and medium height, this lyre of harmony born of tensions of diametrical opposites. That's lyre as in L-Y-R-E. But then he also did the lyre before he founded Second City, and that's another story, and I'm getting all tangled up here. Okay. Anyways, focus. Opposites. This lyre of harmony born of tensions, of diametrical opposites, this dialectical spirit forever and always ultra extraordinaire, and everyday ordinaire to boot, delivering a monologue in Hamlet's very own voice in the middle of his football game, came along and chose me. Already a hobo at 2 weeks of age from the sprawl of bastardized babies down on the Culver City lots, he and Nanny came along and declared, I want this one. I don't much know the one who left me there and went back to Jersey, and I would never want to, well, but Jersey rocks, and a lot of my biggest heroes, Chuck McCann, Ed Losey, you quite possibly, like, so I bow very humbly to New Jersey, and, you know, I know where my food is coming from, so. But yeah, so it, who went back to Jersey, nor the one who rathered escape than face his mistake, who later, before we ever could meet, took a fall from a tree not far from the tree. But it was like this guy Walter, and I knew each other right away since immemorial. I'd known that woolen socks and khaki shorts and beard of black and silver and evermore would in all the rest of our days together. I had the best of the best to see me through, stoked from day one then, I suppose. To see me in all the best ways through my first 32, Second City through Happy Days and Star Wars, and to Shaw and Moliere and Sophocles and beyond, R.I.P. my dearest companion of all time. So that's just a brief poem I wrote to him recently, but I have a book of poems like that I wrote to people here in LA.
That's really great. And we'll talk about Second City and all the rest in part 2. But right now, I just want to thank you. And then this part 1, I'm John Solari, the Method Actor Speaks. If you want to come on the show, you're more than welcome. We have a telephone number that's new now. It's 818-453-0069. Do you have a website or anything like that you have?
David Beakel on Facebook. David Beakel on Facebook.
Okay, that'll be on there too. All right, I want to thank you, and we'll end here.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.